Well, today we're absolutely thrilled to have Geoff Lai from Strategic Brokers on the show. Geoff, I've known you for probably a reasonably long period of time in a different light
Yep.
and a different life
Yep.
professionally. I've known you professionally for some time, and we'll get into all your background at JB Hi-Fi, where you were an absolute superstar and a customer service and service legend for what you were known, and we had a professional history there.
Yep.
But we're thrilled to have you on. You've now moved into the brokering industry and are absolutely smashing it. And one of the reasons why I reached out to you to have you on is there's just some people I come across that are customer service superstars, and obviously we're in the service industry and you're in the service industry, and it's just so hard to come by people that just get service like you do. And I wanted to have you on not only because of that, but now as I said, you've moved into the brokering industry and you are absolutely smashing it in terms of the results you're achieving and the service you're producing for clients. So welcome to the show, Geoff.
Thanks for having me.
Maybe start with your background, your early years, where you grew up and your family and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, awesome. I guess you've sort of touched on some of it. I guess my previous employment history was basically JB Hi-Fi. I was there for a good 16 years, so pretty much more than half, or almost half my life. It's a big stint. I made a move to sort of change industries, and it was more family driven orientated to do that jump later on down the life. But in simple format, I grew up on the northern beaches. We did move out west for a little bit, but then we came back to the northern beaches and been here all our life. Simple as that. It's a very tough area to move away from, I guess. So
beautiful part of the world, right?
Yeah. It is.
Talk us. We'll touch on the JB. I didn't realize you were there for that long. From the limited. I'll just tell you a couple of stories in regards to the service, and I wouldn't mind you sort of expanding on it. But I'm amazed still. Retail, I suppose, is an area where service is sort of very much highlighted. If you're a person that's shopped in a store, which everyone certainly has, everyone knows good service and bad service. Yet it's amazing that you still walk into a retail store and the level of customer service, I believe, is still pretty average. Is good, but is average. I remember very early on when I come into All I.T, and for reference, we did a lot of transactions with you. In terms of TVs for clients and other retail units. So we did quite a bit of business with you. And anytime I walked into JB, we did a lot over email and phone and what have you. But anytime I walked into JB, you were the first person. Whether it was me or someone else, the speed of service and the delivery, you were all over it. Obviously, it was reflective in how well you did. I think you did at one stage 8.2 million in, which was a national record at JB, which is massive in that area. Talk us through some of the core areas, and I presume it just comes naturally to you, but in your days at JB Hi-Fi that enabled you to do that level of number and provide this level of service that you did.
Yeah, sure. So I think it's just you got to figure out what the client wants, what they're after, and then find a solution. That's all it is. And that's with any industry. So a lot of the traits from JB have actually migrated to broking. So it's understanding the customer, their needs, their requirements, and then tailoring something for them. Simple as that. And I guess for me to do that type of volume, I did have clients like yourself, which were more commercial, came back, repeat customers, that sort of stuff. But it's about being transparent. Hey, this is what we can offer you. And some of it was done, like you said, through emails. So a lot of the guys wouldn't be doing transactions through emails. So for me, that transaction I might be doing it in my downtime in between customers that weren't in the shop. So I'm bringing business into the store. And it's how that sort of worked.
Yeah.
So doing it when it wasn't busy on a phone, customer came in and they just transacted to make a payment or pick up the item, and that was it. Like for you guys, it's great because you don't even have to go into the store for half hour waiting around, all that sort of stuff. We can communicate through messages, phones, emails, that sort of stuff. And that's where JB's now changed their model. They've got online. They do stuff that sort of evolves with the time in a nutshell. But I think like any industry that you work in, you just need to sort of figure out, hey, is there other avenues to bring more business in? Is there other ways that you can keep, transacting? And that's it. And just serve your clients day in, day out. And that's it.
Another thing that I always noticed, Geoff, was your speed. And I often talk about, in our business is speed's everything. Obviously we're in, even compared to what you were doing, and we'll get to your current brokering situation and what you're doing now. But speed, I believe, is, amongst other things, is very, very important. Your speed, even if you weren't working, and obviously, everyone is entitled to very much, downtime and all those sorts of things. But if you do want to be successful, you've got to play the long game, and you've got to play, you've got to be on probably more often than the person that doesn't want to do that, and that's fine. But if you want to go to the next level, particularly in the three industries that we're talking about, retail, brokering, and IT service, speed is important.
Yep.
I'd email you and get a response in minutes. I still did. We were reaching out about this. Talk us about, obviously, not only working out what the customer needs, but through that component and how important that is.
Well, it is, because the customer's reaching out to you. They want a solution, and they don't want it in 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. They want it now. So you need to go back to them as soon as you can. If you can't get back to them, you just got to lay out the ground rules. Hey, this is going to take this long. It's going to take 5 days or a week turnaround. I would probably always say that I would overshoot my turnaround and then come in under that. That's probably the most important thing. Don't overpromise, hey, I'll come back to you tomorrow, and you don't do it until the day afterwards. You're better off to say, hey, I'm probably 3 days out, and you come back in 2 days. Just be upfront with them. That's all it is. But the main thing is communicating. As long as I've acknowledged it, I might go, hey, I'm busy at the moment. I saw your email. Hey, can I regroup next week? Or let's set a time to chat, that sort of stuff. And that's the same with, I guess, for your industry, it's probably more crucial. People are contacting you because they want their servers, they want their IT support straight away. That's very, very crucial. Retail, it was quite crucial as well, because I guess most retail is customers go into the store to buy. So it's there and then. They want to transact there and then. They don't want to transact in 1 or 2 weeks or whatever down the track. Commercial clients a little bit different. Hey, we need to buy something for a client. We've got 1 week, 2 weeks to put a proposal together, send something out. We might buy in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. But it's just about that relationship and just communicating it. Brokering, speed is very important for a lot of things. But then in some things, it's about being aware of every single bank's turnaround times as well, and just being realistic about it. Hey, we can make this work, or we can't make this work, or we need to go to this funder to make it work. Simple as that. Just understanding it.
I suppose, Lee, it was actually literally my next question in regards to expectation setting. Is I always, as a business, I always harp on about we have to be in control of what we're in control of, and and again, that speed of response. But again, if we're not in control of a time frame, then we need to set expectation setting. And again, that was one of the core things that I suspect even important in the retail game, but even more important in the brokering industry, in that there is so much that you're not in control of.
Yep.
You're not in control of banks. You're not in control of the client. But setting those expectations is thoroughly important.
Yeah, it is. I think day to day in this industry now, I'm setting expectations more, or putting expectations out there. Hey, this is how long it will take. I need this from you. You'll get this back from me, and then from there we'll go to here. So we've got different stages as we progress, and then it's nice and smooth that way. It's about communication. That's what it is. And I guess most people that are coming now to buy, or as a broker, they're buying one of their biggest assets in their life. It may be their only one. Sometimes it may be their first, their second, their third, or they're building an investment portfolio. But they want to be, I guess, want to know that someone's there to help them when they need it, and they know that if they need to make a phone call, I'll pick up the phone, answer it, and come back to them. Or if I can't, I'll come back to them within the day.
Yeah. Let's rewind. These, I'm a belief that service obviously can be taught, but you were, I presume, did you leave school and go straight to JB?
I actually didn't finish school.
You did.
There you go.
Yeah,
I got to a stage where I dropped out at the end of year 11. I just thought
Yep.
school wasn't for me. Mum and dad were obviously, they're Chinese, very, very study orientated, it wasn't a very nice conversation, but it
I
ended
bet
up
that
being,
went down with it like a lead balloon.
yeah, they were, for a typical Asian family, it wasn't the nicest way to sort of let them know, but, they were very considering, like circumstances, I dropped out. I dropped out in year 11. That was it. Went into the workforce. So I actually started at Strathfield Car Radios, which was the other retail store. I done my stint
Right.
there first before I went to JB. So I'd done a stint at Strathfield for a couple of years, and I sort of done that after work placement. So I did work placement there, got offered a job, and just took it instead of going into year 12. So I
Wow.
don't have a HSC certificate. Um, so simple as that. I didn't actually finish my high school. Um, and then I went
Yeah,
into
right.
retail from JB from there.
So was there someone that was, as I said, you can teach service, but I'm sort of gathering maybe there was someone that was instrumental in your early years, whether that be at school or in those early years at Strathfield or JB, or did it just come naturally? Because I'm always intrigued at
Uh,
the difference between people that are providing amazing service and did you pick it up off someone, or was it observation, or did you have a mentor, or did it come naturally?
I think it came naturally and I sort of picked it up. So, like, I guess my dad was always a hard worker. So, during obviously when we grew up as kids, he actually had three jobs at one stage. So, obviously, we knew that, hey, if you need to obviously provide for the family, you have to work for it. Simple as that. When I started,
Yeah, right.
you know, working, obviously, I was like, oh, how do I do this? How do I do more? How do I better myself every day? Had one goal. How do I multiply that or get further each week? That's it. Simple as that. Or how can I make things quicker? How can I do this task faster so I don't have to spend as much doing it? It's just problem solving. That's
So you're
it.
always thinking about this stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
I find a lot of people, because I'm trying to pick apart exactly, the differences between, in any industry, what is good customer service and what's not. And I think you sort of you highlighted that. Obviously, you saw it through observation through your dad, working hard. But I noticed that the superstars are constantly, they're obviously goal orientated, and they're always picking apart, what's my, how can I improve here, and how can I improve the service for who I'm servicing, all
Yep.
that sort of stuff. Talk us about goals. Have you, obviously you've got moving from retail into brokering. It's a different, it's a much more of a commercial. I mean, you're dealing with B2C, I suppose,
Yeah.
still, but you are you a goal orientated person,
I
Geoff?
think I always am a goal orientated person. I think you set yourself a goal and then you achieve it, and then you have to keep moving your goals. Otherwise, you're just going to get to a plateau and just do nothing once you hit it. And I guess try not to compare yourself to someone else. Someone else might be at stage 10 and you're starting at stage one, so you
So true.
always
Yeah.
just go, hey, I did this week. How do I get better? How do I do the next bit? Um, First thing I think when I went into broken was like, oh, I can never get to the same level as my brother-in-law or something like that. He's been doing it for so long, and it's just about don't worry about that. Scrap that out of the scenario. What can I do to keep doing better for myself? And that's it. And I finally have actually last month I have actually finally beat the company record or his actual personal record as well.
Wow.
Surprisingly, so it's just about doing your own thing, run your own race, and just keep doing better each day.
So like that, it's something that I track very well is the Charlie Munger Warren Buffett internal scorecard rather than the external scorecard, and I believe it's very important, and it sounds like you do the same. Talk us. Obviously, you had 16 years at JB, and you decided to make the move. We were talking just before off air that you made the move for family reasons, and I follow you on Instagram, and family is absolutely everything to you, which I love.
Yeah.
Talk us through that change, how you moved from JB to strategic, and I suppose the mortgage brokering industry, and
Yeah,
what was
yeah.
the triggers, and
Um,
was it family and what have you?
I think I always thought I was probably staying retail. I was happy at JB. It was a
Oh,
great
okay.
company. I actually saw myself probably retiring at JB originally, but then it got to a stage where uh, it's probably it was probably my son pulling on the strings. Hey, Dad, when are you going to come to this birthday? When are you coming on this on the weekend? I chose to work the weekends because obviously they were busier in retail. I didn't have to. I could always adopt to not work them, but that was a choice. I then had obviously my brother-in-law, who was obviously part owner in this business. Basically, every Christmas, hey, Jeff, come in, work for us. And I was like, no, 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 I'm fine. Come work for us every single Christmas. And it was got to one year where it was literally my son asking about why and when I'm going to be, more present on the weekends. And it clicked to me that he is going to school the next year. And if I didn't do a change, I won't see him on the weekends if he goes to school. So that was the change. That Christmas was when my brother-in-law asked me again, and I literally said, yes, I need to make a change. How do we do this? Um, and then it was a commitment from my partner and our family, and obviously my brother-in-law to make this change. There was a whole year in transition. JB was really supportive throughout that change, where I was able to work 5 days, drop down to 4, drop down to 3, and even drop down to 2 days a week.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was doing the extra days, learning broking on the back end. So the transition phase was my partner took on the whole family household, the kids, everything. She took that on, like all on her plate. On me, I worked 7 days a week for a year. I also did a diploma in the background. I wasn't a bookworm, and I
Wow.
found it hard to literally do that diploma.
Yeah, yeah.
Times that I literally was at capacity or literally going, did I make the right choice? I can't understand this. I don't get it. That sort of stuff. But we just made it work. Simple as that. And there was one stage where I was doing 5 days in the office for broking and 2 days at JB. And I was able to
Wow.
do remote work. So obviously clients like yourself, which were commercial clients, I was still able to pick up the phone, do that work remotely. And I was still doing volume more than some people that were in a store 5 days a week. That target that you've mentioned about, that was the year prior to me making the change. That year was my
Yep.
transition, and yeah, I did 8.2 mil. I don't know what the company's done since, but I think the next closest person was about 2 or 3 mil under that, at least from memory.
And Jeff, this is just a note on this. I follow JB from a corporate level, via shares and what have you, and they do. And I'm going to, speak you up a little bit more here, but JB's culture is they have a very strong sales culture as it is. So you're up here as opposed to other retail organisations that don't have that quite refined. It's quite refined at JB, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. They've got sales
Yeah.
targets, things to meet. They've got good training models, that sort of stuff. And the development is great inside that business. And yeah, yeah. I thought I was going to retire at JB originally.
Yeah, interesting. So this period, I'm intrigued in this period of 12 months. I I still strongly believe a strong partner is absolutely everything.
Yep.
Your wife took a big load in this,
She did.
big commitment
Massive
from a
commitment.
family,
Yeah.
and and it's she's obviously very supportive. And talk us through that component of your personal life because it's obviously very important.
Yeah,
Your,
of
your
course.
kids are important too, but equally
It
your
is.
partner.
So Jess basically took on, well, we came to agreement saying, hey, if we make this change, what's going to happen? Like, I can't, obviously pick up the kids or I can't do this. Is that something that you're open to? Are you able to do this? And the agreement came down to, yep, she was happy to take on the whole family arrangement. Kids, food, cleaning, all that sort of stuff while we went through this transition stage. That was a big transition stage. It was 12 months, that she was doing all that.
Big
Um, uh,
sacrifice.
yeah,
Big sacrifice.
and even when we did switch to broking, it doesn't just come on. I guess I've gone from being PAYG to self-employed, and I guess that's a big change to start with. Then it's about,
Yeah.
I guess, building the business, building your clientele. And if you, I guess, do a transaction in this industry, you don't get paid straight away. Okay. So how it works is it's no different to real estate. Maybe you have a lead, you talk to a lead, it goes into, a pre-approval stage. That client will then go shopping. They may take 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years before they buy. When they buy,
Yeah.
there's what we call a settlement period. Average is normally 42 days, so 6 weeks. 6 weeks, that transaction settles. I don't get paid then either. By the time I get
Oh,
paid,
right.
it's probably another 2 to 3 months when I get paid from the aggregator. So that time period is quite a long period of time. There was a period of time when I made the transition, and the first 6 months I said to my partner, I was used to getting paid this much per week, and I wasn't even seeing that maybe once a month or even sometimes in 2 months. And it was a massive, massive change, but, obviously just keep doing what you do. If you do good work, clients will come, business will come, and then I could see and I can project what would come in the future. That first year was tough. I'll be upfront with everyone. If you've got a family, you've got to have commitments from the family to help out and support it. The kids were great. They were more at the younger age then. And now I'm in year 4. So first year was 21 to 22. Second was 22 to 23. So yeah, 20. Yeah. So the first year was a building year. The second year, I would probably say 22 to 23 was when I was starting to see where the potential can go. In that year, I actually, for my aggregator, I took out the new Broker of the Year award for the aggregator. The year
Incredible.
after, which is the one that just went, so that's the 23 to 24, I was nominated for some awards, but I obviously didn't take home the awards for the aggregator. But what I did get was, what I just got notified is I did make the top 100 list for that year, and I find out where I place in December. So out of 19,000, 20,000 brokers, top 1%, half a percent, if you
Wow.
make that top 100 list.
Incredible start to think that just the natural period of getting paid and the lead time,
Yep.
and not having, the period of time that of repeat referrals and all these things that happen. I've got a little visitor here in the background. That's what live podcasting is all about. But talk us through how you got those results that quickly.
Well, I guess I did lean on an established business. So my brother-in-law's business was an established broking business. So it wasn't like, hey, we're starting from scratch.
Yeah,
so,
but I mean, he's got his client. He's got his clients, Geoff, and you're starting from an absolute from a standing start.
Yeah, I wouldn't say standing start.
Do you reach out to people?
I didn't at first. So I didn't reach out. I didn't promote my change until at least 6 months in. And the reason why I didn't, for me, I thought it was more, I wanted to be at a certain level. So when people came to me, they go, "Oh, Geoff was good. This is what happened." Not Geoff is learning. Like, oh, he didn't know this. Do you get me? So my first 6 months, I did not promote that I'd done the change. I did not promote that I'd done the switch. I was using branch leads. So I was working on, my brother-in-law's business leads. So I was working on those clients. I then, off the back of those leads, doing good work, those clients gave me their friends and family. And then obviously I started to build my network. So I started getting referral partners, working with buyers agents, real estate, accountants, all that sort of stuff. Started then to start build my brand out, but didn't start doing that until probably about 6 to 12 months in. Okay. Once I started understanding the broking, understanding the volume, understanding how I do things, how to do the deal. That's when I started promoting my name. When I promoted my name, I want it to be solid. I don't want it to be, oh, yeah, he was all right compared to, oh, man, he was amazing. You know what I mean? That was the difference.
Yeah.
But like I said, everything at your own pace. And when I was ready, then I started promoting it.
Interesting. There's a natural, I suppose, in any industry, you get into something and everyone wants to shoot for the stars and not do the crawling and the baby steps first.
Yep.
And that's an interesting point. So you've been able to have incredible results in your first 3 full years, but still take a pretty slow and steady approach to making sure you know the market.
Yeah.
Talk us through, like any industry, I was just talking, and I'm going to go off topic here a little bit, but I was just talking with I've got a painter here at the moment, and I think a lot of people think that you do painting and, I can do that. And I used to think that myself. And I'm looking at this guy and he's an absolute he's a gun, and he spent years refining he's just meticulous. And I suppose brokering, in some senses, people think, how hard can it be? But, I've done a number of transactions with, business-wise and personal-wise over the years, and you just look at the amount of not only work that's in it, but just knowledge of the industry and the banks. Talk us through that, and I imagine it's constantly changing. Is that also a fair assumption? It's
100%.
I mean, it's an industry that doesn't stand still.
Yep. Policy changes. So you can do something at one bank today, and then next week it could be different. So we could say no now, they can't do that. And next week they can go, yeah, we'll take that on. It could be the other way around. We will take this business on now. Next week they go, oh, we don't want any more of that business, so we're not going to do that anymore, or the rate will be different. So it's constantly shifting. I guess this industry is about understanding the client, what their goal is, what their individual circumstances is, which would be their income, their liabilities, their assets, and then making sure that we take them to a bank that gives you, one, a competitive rate, but also will get them to that goal. So rate's very important, but it's not always the end goal. And some people go, why rate's the first thing that I look at? It might be if you're a very simple, basic, vanilla customer and just buying one property, but some of our clients are, 5 properties, 10 properties deep. And when they're at that level, they literally look at, Geoff, I can only buy 5 properties. I'm getting so much growth out of these properties. How do I get to buy 2 more? Well, maybe by taking it to a funder that looks at it outside the box, the rate might be 0.5%, 1% more, but we can buy 1 or 2 more properties. They buy that property grows over 10 years or 20 years. That outweighs the interest rate that they're looking at. Correct, because they're looking at the bigger picture. And it's interest rate's very important. We try to get the lowest rate all the time, but sometimes purpose outweighs the rate. Simple as that. And it's about explaining that to the customer. And where we come really well is people that get tapped out, they come to us, they speak to us, and sometimes we can, explore different avenues or different strategies and get them to a goal of, buying more property. Simple as that.
Do you find that a lot with customers? Do they come to you after they've had a crack trying to do something themselves, and then they come to you?
Yep.
Is that?
Yep, 100%. I've had a few clients who have had, I guess, one scenario presented to them and then had a second opinion. And maybe that second opinion is, gave them a completely different aspect or viewing out of, how it can be done.
Is that off the back, Geoff, of people, sorry to interrupt, because this is interesting. Obviously, like I've banked with Commonwealth Bank for what feels like my whole life, probably has been. Do a lot of people go, oh, well, I've been with the Commonwealth for years, I'll just go to them? Is that where generally people start before they go,
correct.
Oh, hold on a minute? And to follow on, second part of the question is, I would imagine even probably 5-10 years ago, people's vanilla, what we refer as, basic PAYG, most people are not that these days. They do Ubering on the side, or they've got, this situation, and they've got, they're getting funds from somewhere else, from, maybe from the bank of mum and dad or whoever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
So those two parts of those questions, correct? Am I on the right track there?
Yeah, correct. So like you said, most customers aren't vanilla anymore because there's so many different ways to earn money. They've got different avenues.
Yep.
They've got different structures. It's just about understanding it and I guess presenting the best option for them. Now, a lot of customers go to their bank because they think it's easy. Now, one of the reasons why it's easy is they see your spending habits. They see obviously your income coming in. So all they do is they just use their internal systems and go, hey, you can borrow X, and that's it. But then you might go, hey, I want to borrow more. I've got extra income. Maybe that bank doesn't accept it or doesn't look at that income. And then you might have to go to a different bank to be able to open that opportunity up. So let's say if you picked up a second job, some banks will actually require you to have that second job. Let's say casual, you'll need 6 months in the role before you can use it. Some lenders will go, hey, you need to be in that role for 12 months before we'll take that on as a second role. So then you might go, hey, this bank won't give us this borrowing power, but taking it to a different bank might. Some banks will look at it from day one. Some banks will look at it, maybe 3 months in the role. So every bank's got different policies and it constantly shifts. That's the catch. And it's good to go to a broker. And there's a reason why brokers now have over 70% of the market share. Banks used to obviously do the bulk.
70%?
More than 70% now. Yeah, I think it's a little bit higher than 70%.
Right.
Yeah, but we have about 70% of the market share. because we don't just sell one bank. So I don't just sell CBA. I can sell the big four and all the other second tiers and third tier funders out there. We've got about 35 different lenders on the panel, which is huge. We would shop between.
I noticed, Geoff, that the Commonwealth, the CEO, I think it was the CEO of the Commonwealth Bank here a few weeks ago, come out and made some interesting remarks about the mortgage broking industry, and I suspect that's off the back of just they're giving away such a large
Well, it used to be a lot lower
percentage of their market to the broker industry.
Yep. Yep. And if you look at it, the banks they used to do the bulk of it, and now a big percentage of it's going to the broker. But the brokers may not take them to that bank that they want. They may go to a different bank or keep shifting depending on the policies. And that's why I guess some of the bigger banks now are doing, I guess, sister companies. Like if you talk about CBA, we have Unloan as a sister company. We've got Bank West, that's part of their, under that same group, but they're two different banks. So they've got different policies. So you might take some deals to CBA, you may take some deals to the Bank West as an example. But every bank's different depending on the client scenario. I think that's the best way to put it.
Interesting. And talk us through, I don't know what the industry term is, but these second tier bank, I don't know whether second tier is the right term, but there's Pepper and there's all these other subsidiary companies that I see. I was doing some research on you before, and there's all these other lenders that some of them I've never even heard of. What role do they play in the mix? And
of course,
are they just skewed to a separate section of the market, or what? How do they work?
Nah, so some people get the misconception that they only want to stay with the big four. The big four are great. We do the bulk of our loans probably with the big four. And I guess one of the reasons why is we do negotiate better rates than what they advertise. So what you're seeing on their website is not what I will get you at the big four.
Right.
So it comes down to the relationship there, the knowledge, to what bank to take it to. Hey, we've got this deal. We want a better rate. We negotiate that rate. Now, the bulk of it, why I guess if you're looking at a simple broker, a lot of them will take you to a second tier or third tier funder, maybe because the rates they're advertising is cheaper. But if you've got the relationships at the big four, you can probably get a rate that's the same or very close. And to be honest with you, the big four have got a lot bigger risk appetite. They've got better systems in place, better online systems and internet banking places. They've got the option to go visit a branch if you need to. You would go to a big four all day, every day if you can. If you get tapped out or there's a purpose or reason to go to a second tier funder, that's when we go to them. Now, there are reasons to go there. So as an example, some customers will get tapped out, at a certain amount of properties. And then maybe exploring, like you said, like a Pepper or Liberty or Resimac or, these second tier funders. They may look at the income differently and assess it differently to allow that to happen. Now, most common thing is the major banks have a 3% buffer. So let's say the rate's at 6%, they're factoring that you can repay that loan at 9%. Now, if you take that to a second tier funder, some of them will take those repayments for your existing actual repayments and then factor a lower buffer rate on the new purchase, which could instantly open up, maybe 5%, 10% extra borrowing power, which is huge.
Okay. Talk us through, I think, I might be wrong here, but I think, with the proliferation of mortgage broking, a lot of people know what a mortgage broker does. They open you up to the market. We've been talking about it. But I always think of everyone's time poor, right? Like, you never go out and talk to someone and say, oh, how you going? And busy. And I very rarely hear people say, oh, geez, don't have much on. People have got kids and people are time poor. You add to that, you're buying a home or investment property or whatever, or you refi. These are stressful times, let's be honest. Like it's exciting, but it's also stressful.
Yeah.
I see it as the sheer amount of paperwork and back and forth, if you were to do this yourself, is just phenomenal, Geoff.
Yeah.
Talk us through the role that you play, and I suppose also add into that, if I was referring, someone that I know to you, and they went to say, just an average broker, and someone like yourself who's high service, high communication. Talk us through just the sheer amount of work that you take off someone's plate.
So I guess part of our job is we collate the application for you. So we will have to get information from you. We'll have to obviously, ask for documents as well. Those documents, we'll look at them. And let's say, for instance, you've sent me a driver's license and it's blurry. Guess what? I'm going to tell you, hey, it's blurry. I need a better photo of that. That happens all the time. It could be as simple as a bank statement. Hey, we're missing one page. All these extra paperwork that you guys would send to the bank, if you send it incorrect to them, they're going to look at it and they'll go, cool, it's missing this. This is cut off, and they'll send it to you, and then you have to send it to them again. And they might put it down for 2 or 3 days. And then you send it to them and it's wrong, other 2 or 3 days. That's how you get, I guess, a long time when you submit a deal and it keeps coming back and forth because the broker hasn't given that bank what they require first time or second time, and it keeps getting reworked. Part of our job is to screen your documents and go, hey, what you've given us is correct, or what you've given us is not correct. We need X, Y, and Z. We need the forms filled out like this. This is how the forms are filled out. We fill out the forms. We get you to then review it, sign it, and then we submit it to the bank. Majority of the time, 95% of the time, it's a single touch. Goes in, gets approved, that's it. That's how we get good service. Clients have probably experienced the bad or the latter before. They then go through a broker that actually knows what they're doing, goes in, goes out, and it's really quick. And that only comes from experience, volume, and knowing the policy that the bank wants. That's it.
Okay. And talk us through a little bit more what's happening in the market at the moment. I know that, and again, I'm not right up to speed, and I suspect the average person's not, in terms of, you hear in the media that, you know, X, Y, and Z bank, or the market in general, has relaxed their lending policies or tightened their lending policies. I know that they all operate under a framework of such from, I think is it APRA, where they're setting the guidelines, or the guardrails, so to speak. What's happening at the moment, Geoff? Are the banks, you know, they tightened up? Are they getting more relaxed? What way is it heading? Because we're in this funny situation. You know, we probably should timestamp this in early October of 2024. So it's somewhat got some relevancy to when people are listening. But, you know, the US has eased interest rates. Australia is, up until recently, was still talking possibly of another rate rise. Bit of a weird situation, right? There's a few economic numbers that have started to soften, but there's still relative strength in some areas. Park the interest rate discussion for a moment, because you probably need to have a crystal ball. Where are the banks at in all of these? So their restrictions easing or tightening, or what have you?
Yep. So I guess a little bit of a disclaimer. Obviously, what we're now talking is just general advice, not financial advice or anything like that.
Exactly.
So in simple format, the banks have started to ease up on fixed rates. Yeah, a whole handful of them have dropped. Some of them actually dropped to as low as 5.59 recently, and then recently dropped down to 5.39 as of today, for fixed rates, which is a good sign to sort of see the market shifting. What that might mean is probably in the next 12 months to 2 years, we are going to see quite a few interest rate drops. We don't see them until they happen. Okay, that's what they're predicting, and it's looking that way because a lot of the banks are doing it. If you're looking at it, out of the big four banks, we're looking at 3 out of the big 4 have actually reduced their fixed rates. Some of the smaller tiers have reduced them as well. It's a sign of what's happening. And some people want certainty, so they lock those rates in. Some people now going, do we write it out? Because what will happen in 2 years or 3 years? It might be lower than that fixed rate that we lock in now as well. There is no right or wrong. It comes down to that person's scenario. Are you guys pinched? Do you need the drop now? If we fix it for 2 years, it's going to ease the pressure for 2 years for you, you know, or 3 years. You know what I mean? So it's understanding what suits them the best, and then giving them that advice, and then they got to make that decision themselves.
Okay. And again, a bit of a here and now question, but how are you finding the market? Are people, you know, again, it's a little bit weird, and you look at Brisbane and Sydney and Melbourne's certainly been softer than certainly Sydney, and probably Brisbane's been a little bit stronger, and Perth's relatively on fire at the moment. But and obviously you're in Sydney. First of all, you can write a loan anywhere, Geoff?
Yeah, I've transacted in every single state. So every single state, even Tasmania. So the bulk of my stuff for my investors are probably buying at the moment in WA and Queensland. They're probably the two stronger markets. The Sydney market is more my own occupied properties and some investments. But if they are buying, you know, maybe their third or fourth or fifth investment. Most of them aren't buying in Sydney. The prices are a lot higher. To buy a house in Sydney, you're probably paying a lot more. For them, it might make sense to look outside of Sydney or invest elsewhere. Simple as that. Melbourne wise, probably hasn't had
Interesting.
that much in transactions. At the moment, obviously, like you said, that the market's a bit soft. But that's not always the case. It may, increase later down the track, but at the moment we're obviously at a plateau there or negative.
Okay. Now, person that's got their own home, they've probably got a little bit of equity. People have, particularly if they've owned the home for any longer than what feels like 5 minutes. But when I say 5 minutes, I'm talking, 5 or 10 years even. They've probably got a lot of equity in their home, just from the huge capital gains that have occurred over that period, particularly over the COVID period. And they're probably sitting around the dinner table thinking about how do they release some equity. And I'm still surprised by the number of people that probably don't realise that they can release some equity and do some interesting things with it in terms of investment property or other investments or what have you. Talk us through that process and how you guide people through that, because it's a bit of a for someone that hasn't done it, it's probably a bit of a weird situation that you can say, hold on a minute, I've got equity here, but I don't necessarily need cash to be able to go out and fund an investment property or what have you. I know there's a lot more detail in it than probably a few minute answer, but just talk us through that process and how you help those people.
Yep. So I guess let's say any property that you've owned, even if you had it for maybe more than 2 or 3 years, you probably have some sort of equity in there. Now, having equity doesn't mean that you can just release it and do what you want with it. You have to show the bank that you can service to release that amount of equity. Okay, so borrowing power is probably most people's holding them back at the moment because they can't borrow more money. But let's say there is equity,
Right.
you would probably consider taking that equity. You can then use that money to then buy something else. Now, the reason why it works really well for a lot of people is, let's say, for instance, you draw out some money, you buy other property, you've got the value of that property increasing over time, versus if you just bought 50 grand's worth of shares or 100 grand's worth of shares, you've only got the value that you've put in. That grows. So let's say you have 100 grand into shares and it grows at 10%. After a year, it's worth 110. Versus if you take that 100 grand and buy other property, let's say $500,000 property, and that grows at 10%, that value is growing a lot faster. The capital growth that you get on that is what's going to make you that life-changing money. So on the northern beaches, if you look at it, freshwater, that's where our family home was in the past. Mum and dad bought a property around about $500,000. We're talking close to 30 years ago. When they sold it for 3.1 mil. You can't make that money. That's how people make their life-changing money. And they're the people that you're hearing now, all these parents or grandparents are selling these properties, making big money from it and then downsizing. That's exactly what you want to do, but maybe consider buying somewhere that you can afford to buy. And then what would that property do in 5 years, 10 years, 20, hopefully 30 years again? And you do the same, rinse and repeat. And it's about, I guess, using your equity in your property. So instead of cash, you take the equity to fund that purchase, and then you leverage on the purchase as well. And you're leveraging on, if you can, 100% or 105% if you're covering your costs, which is stamp duty and legals and so forth. Then that asset is growing over time. The most important thing is, I guess some people look at it as, I've got to pay down the debt. Look at it in a different method. If you buy investment property, so once again, this is just general advice, okay, not financial advice, is if you buy a property and you're holding that asset, and it grows over that time period, and then let's say 10 years later, you sell that asset should have grown that much that it can pay up the existing debt. What do you walk away with? That's probably one of the better ways to look at it.
Yeah, right. Interesting. So moving forward, Geoff, you've had 3-4 years. You're into your fourth year. That is, I mean, in the society we live in terms of how people measure things, they think that that's not a long period of time. But that's a long period of time, but it's not. Particularly in a new industry, and you're absolutely, smashing out of the park. What's the next 12, 18, 2 years look like for you in terms of where you're heading in the business into that period of time?
So I've made some pretty big business changes recently. Obviously, being upfront, I literally burnt out a couple months ago. I got to my capacity. I took a bit of time off this month. This is October. So last month in September, I took 2.5 weeks off. And I did my
Good on
biggest
you.
month. Now that biggest month wasn't what I did in
Wow,
September.
really?
Yep, it was what I did in
Yeah, yeah.
2, 3 months ago. So, like I said again with the transactions,
That led to the burnout, Geoff.
correct. The burnout was probably around that June, July period. But then everything that happened then settled in September. And it's
Yeah,
massive.
right.
So I guess volume wise, I'll be upfront. I did 43 transactions and I did 28 million in a month, which is huge. Some
Wow.
people don't do 28 mil in a year in this
A
industry.
year.
So if you look at the average out there, I think they say if you do 25 or more, so it's 25 mil or more, that's more than half the brokers out there. Um, they're doing less than that in volume per year. Um,
And I know this is, you don't have to go into too much detail, but those people are making a quid, mate, doing those sorts of numbers. They're obviously not amazing, but
yeah,
they'd be, because another thing I want to touch on today is there's a lot of mortgage brokers out there,
yeah,
right? Like obviously it's, just to provide average customer service. You don't have to be, you could insert yourself into one of these major brands
yeah.
that are doing mortgage broking and have a crack. And I often say, just as another point, is people often said to actually I was talking to a guy I know in Darlinghurst who runs an amazing cafe
Mm,
called Stranger, and I said to him, um, you know, why is that there's like cafes everywhere in sort of Rush Coast Bay, Darlinghurst, right? And he's gone in there and opened a cafe here probably 4 or 5 years ago and just obliterated them because he provided amazing customer
yeah.
service and
Something different.
did what you're doing. No different, right? And people say, and they used to say to him, "I don't open up there. There's too many cafes," and it's all largely irrelevant. I'd imagine mortgage broking's the same.
Yep.
But in terms of lots of mortgage brokers out there, obviously you're doing big numbers.
Mm,
And the next part is you mentioned burnout, and
mm,
it's like real estate agents, mortgage brokers, and even this game, it can be high stress. You can take on the stress of people because again they're stressed. I often say in IT, take away someone's firstborn or take away their laptop or their internet, and all hell breaks loose. It's crazy. The immediacy that people require, and you do take that on as running your own show, and you doing big numbers. What adjustments have you made in your life to try and obviously you can't get going at that rate, but you can continue to grow your business through better process and all that sort of
yeah.
stuff. Talk us through that. You've obviously
Yeah, I guess that's
hinted
that's
some
what I said.
changes.
This year I've made some changes. So I've obviously I've put on 2 staff members. So I put on
Okay.
my first staff member basically in March, and I've just put on my second one in August. Pretty much just straight after my burnout. That's it. So now I'm at a stage where uh, volume's great. It's not about volume, it's more about time with the family and the kids more. So I'm now going, how do I get myself away from the business and
Maximise
get the
that.
business
Yep.
ticking a bit more? And I need to take a backward step. So take a step towards back to basically do some training, build my team up, build some processes into place, and then go forward again. Simple as that.
Okay.
There is no simple way. It's just hard work. Just gotta do it.
Yeah, yeah. What are those people doing that you mentioned you've added a couple of people, mate? What are they doing in
Yep,
your
yep.
business
So
for
I've
you?
added a admin support on the back end to help me with settlements, and then I've got a broker support as well
Yep.
to just help me with some of the day-to-day tasks to free some of my hours up. So basically, what that entails is I will get some stuff in, I'll get them to do some of the basic setup, and then I'll look at the file before I obviously present, deals and so forth. But just to free my
Yeah, right.
capacity up, there's a lot of tasks out there that instead of me doing it, I can get someone else to do some of it or to do the bulk of it, and then I can look at the file or look at things out later. No different, I guess, in the IT industry. You know what I mean? You would have people
Yeah,
that can,
exactly.
manage and do things, and then you would oversee everything. It's about offering that team, training and support to get them to a level that you want them to be. If they can do the bulk of it, then you can oversee the last bit of it, and that's it.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting. Talk us through, and I want to get to how people contact you and all that sort of stuff. But I'm intrigued. What's a typical day like for you, Geoff? Is it obviously, family's important, but and you've got these new staff members, but are you spending your day predominantly in front of clients? I suppose that you're trying to shift that with the additional staff members.
Yep. So, no, I'm still doing the face to face, or sorry, not face to face, but the phone calls and the remote calls with the clients. I am, doing the onboarding with the clients. The
Okay.
support is really more back end support. So it's the stuff that
Right.
doesn't need to be client facing sort of thing. So they're doing stuff that's on the back end that frees up because
Yep.
preparing application takes quite a bit of time, setting up paperwork, renaming things, sorting everything out. That admin paperwork that can be done by my
Yep.
broker support. In a nutshell. I guess, yeah, broker support's there to free me up. That's pretty much it. And I'm still in a training, learning phase to figure out how we can get everything working smoother and better. I've only hired that, uh, second broking support in August. So this is literally second month.
Early days.
Very early days at the
Yeah.
moment
Right.
for me. But the burnout required me to, go, hey, how am I going to do this? Otherwise, I'm going to just keep burning out. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you've got to, I think, you got to see that. And I guess when I got to that stage, it was more before I got to that stage, I would go to the gym in the morning. I'll come home, I'll do some work, take some calls, maybe, spend some time with the kids, and then do more work. Um, but when I got to that busy period, I actually dropped off the gym for almost a month and a half. I only just started going back again. And I know that I shouldn't be, but I did. I prioritized work over personal life and health, which is not the right way. But I did it for a short period of time, and now I'm back. Hey, I need to put some boundaries in. This is what I want to do, and go forward from there.
You were routine. I'm a big routine person, so I love the power of routine. I
Yep.
believe that every bit of success that anyone can have is off the back of predominantly good routine, and whether that's routine in whether it's making calls and contacting people and making sure people are happy, or it's getting into the gym every single day and doing that and compounding that for day after day, week after week. Routine, obviously we all fall off the bandwagon and it's funny, isn't it, how we get busy and some of those personal things are the first things that tend to
Yep.
fall off because you try and go, oh, I'll drop that to try and keep going at the rate I'm going.
Yep.
Talk us through, it's obviously important to you, routine. You seem like
Yeah.
a routine and process orientated
I
person,
am.
Geoff.
I am. So, yeah, the dream solution would be wake up, go to the gym, come home, see the kids, have some breakfast with the kids, send them on their way, then do some work. And that is the goal. The goal now is to literally spend more time with them. Now, getting up and going to the gym puts me in a nice mindset. So then it's obviously, gets your endorphins flowing and you literally do better work. That's how I look at it. Some people might not be a morning person. They
Mm.
might do late at night. Everyone's got their own schedule. Just depends on what they like. Simple as that. But it's very crucial to have some sort of routine. I guess throughout my process with, broking as well, how I onboard each customer, how I do everything, I think it's very process driven. So I go through each stage, and then it goes to the next stage. So I think it's more about me refining that process or maybe refining each stage to make it smoother or better. And I'm learning every day still. What works for one customer might not
Mm.
work for a different customer. They might have a different personality or they absorb information differently. So then you've got to pivot or change to suit that person as well. That's probably the best way to look at it.
No cookie cutter approach, right? I think
No,
that's another
you
thing that I've
can.
learned is it doesn't tend to work.
Yeah, you got to pivot. You got to be able, or you got to be able to pivot in a nutshell. I think that's probably the most
Mm.
important thing.
Yeah, you would have noticed that in your days at JB. I mean, you've got every personality
Yep.
walking through the front door of JB Hi-Fi,
Yep.
and 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 the way you service one person to the next person in a matter of 30 seconds, it has to be totally different. And if you're in a a one-track mind that
Yep.
provides service in one way, I think it's a recipe for failure. And you probably
Yep.
noticed that with people trying to sell things over the years,
Yep.
and I suppose it's adjusted to on the amount of passion you have for what you're doing and the amount of drive and energy
Yep.
you're doing, right?
100%.
Yeah. Mate, strategic brokers. Obviously, you mentioned your brother-in-law. Talk us about the firm. How long they've been. A little bit about strategic brokers
Yeah,
and what the setup is, and
yeah.
who you're servicing and how and all that sort
Yep.
of stuff.
So Strategic Brokers is actually it's quite a new firm as well. So I'll give you a bit of backstory around the broking firm. So this business actually started and is still started off in the Yellow Brick Road arm. So we actually had a Yellow Brick Road franchise,
Okay.
and we
Yep.
actually hold still the Yellow Brick Road franchise. And then we got to a stage where we are self-sufficient and established, and we were actually one of the first that were able to offer dual branding. So we still have the Yellow Brick Road arm, and we have got strategic brokers. When I started,
Okay.
I was in that transition stage, Yellow Brick Road and strategic. Pretty much, I only write under strategic brokers. They're both under the same aggregator, so it's the same, I guess, top entity, as you call it, that basically holds both of them. Um, but in simple format, strategic has been open for about 5 years now, 5 years, 6 years, yeah, roughly. And the Yellow Brick arm is still on the back end for us as well. So we've got both. Um, but most of our clients now know who we are. They come through the so not the Yellow Brick Road arm anymore, but the strategic broker arm.
Right. There seems to be, and I would suspect your business is similar. A real play, a shift over the years, and I'm talking, probably a 10 to 20-year period
Mhm.
up until now, of the industry wanting to do, and some industries this still applies, but wanting to deal with a big player. Again, I keep coming back to JB, but there's a lot of recognition there. If you're going to go and buy a TV, you want to go and buy it from a big player. Probably go and buy it from someone that's probably deemed a little bit smaller because you're unsure of you know pricing and all those sorts of things.
Mhm.
But in the professional services industry, I feel there's been a big change in people wanting to utilize someone that's independent.
Yep.
They just subconsciously feel like they're going to get a higher level of service because they got skin in the game,
Yep.
or we're not working for somebody else. Do you feel that?
I do.
And I ask that question because you've moved from you've been in both. That
Yep.
business has been in both scenarios, and now you're predominantly doing most out of strategic brokers.
Yep.
Fair assumption, Jeff?
Yep. 100% it is. I look at it. You go to a retail outlet to obviously buy things. Obviously, they might get bigger buying power and so forth. I understand big company that way, but like you said,
Yep.
service-based industry, smaller companies or the smaller people or the businesses that are more independent because they're going to offer you their service. They want to do well. They want you to come back. They want you to stay on. They want you to repeat. And that's your and my industry now. Simple as that.
Yeah.
It's service-based.
Yeah. And you've got skin in the game. There's nothing like, you know, you're essentially working for yourself under the strategic broker's arm. You just operate differently when your name is in front of it. You're on the line.
Yep.
You're thinking every single day, how do I provide this person with better service?
Yep.
It's just a different mindset. And then you couple that in, and I'm going to pump your tires up even more. You couple it. You were doing that when you were at JB. You're working for a multinational company or a big national company, and it's just amplified in the level of service you provide. So, mate, look, we could talk for a long period, but well done on. I can't thank you enough for. I probably didn't thank you at the time, and I should have, for the level of, you got us out of pickles at JB, with needing things
Yep.
quickly and getting stock and all that sort of stuff. It was just simply amazing. And it's been, I've been watching you from afar
Yep.
at Strategic Brokers, and you're flourishing, and make sure that and I know you will, you keep family first and foremost.
Yep.
And I know you'll be able to do that and grow through good process and good relationships. So well done. It's only the beginning. How do people contact you at Strategic Brokers? How do they reach out? I mean, we'll link everything in all the platforms, but what are the simple ways for people to reach out?
Easy way is probably just pick up the phone and call. I do have a online
Yep,
profile. I'm sure you'll share it with them anyway. They can see who I
100%.
am, what I've done. I think the easiest way is just reach out. If you want to schedule a meeting, just go, hey, just want to have a chat, book in a meeting. I am very direct and simple, so I like to just cut to the chase, get the job done. How can I find you that solution? I guess that's always what I've been at JB as well, because there's no point
Yeah,
giving you a
to the
5, 10
point.
minute.
Well, people people are busy, mate. You know, they
100%.
don't want to. They're not interested.
Correct.
Most of the time,
Correct.
the dribble.
Yep. So literally just get straight to the point. What do you need? How do we get there? What do we need? And go from there. Nice and simple. Make it easy. Um, Obviously that works for some people, not for everyone. But you know, it doesn't hurt to have a couple of second opinions until you find the right person that you want to work with. But I would definitely urge going down a broker channel. There's a reason why we have over 70% market share. That's it.
And just one final question, Geoff. It doesn't matter whether you're looking for your first property or you're looking to sell one and enter another one. You will look at refinancing as well if you've got a current deal and you feel like you've been, you know, the Commonwealth Bank for 100 years and you go a whole lot of minutes. It's probably a better deal. You'll look at that too, Geoff.
Yeah, we service pretty much every single clientele. Simple as that. Or if not, or if we can't help you, we'll tell you where to go, or we'll point you in the right direction. But why you come to a broker as well, it's part of the networks. We have, you know, the accountants, we have, you know, the buyer's agents, we have real estates that we might know. We have people that are in that industry, or you know, might be a builder like yourself, IT. We can pass you or network you with the right person or the right contact if needed as well. And that's probably the most valuable.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you for inviting
me. Mate, I wish you all the very best. No worries. I wish you all the very best. I'm intrigued to follow from afar and closely, of course. But I still wish you were back at JB, mate, so I could lean upon you. But anyway, you're on to bigger and better things. So thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. All the very best, and we'll talk again soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Speak soon. Bye.
Thanks, Geoff.